Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, your sommelier of cinema, your archbishop of Banterbury, your chancellor of cheerfulness, your pharaoh of physical media, and your existential Mr. Rogers, Robert Meyer Burnett, coming at you, Robcasting at you from the Robservatory on a Monday, where, more disappointment. Not professional disappointment, personal disappointment. Actually, professionally, things are, aside from the air quality still not being up to snuff. Oops, I'm apparently have a drinking problem. It's just another day of disappointment. You know what isn't disappointing, though? What isn't disappointing is the first annual Intergalactic Imagination Connoisseurs Film Festival. If you haven't yet, the third official selection of the festival, Crawl Space, debuted today at noon. I think it's a really good indicator of where I hope the festival would go in terms of a direction and the kind of movies we're getting. It's less than 4 minutes. I hope everybody takes a gander at it over on the Burnettwork YouTube channel. I made it the first playlist, so if you hit playlists, you can find the video right away with the other two entries, Dieter Bastian's The Secret Exchange 2, Broken Promises, along with Dieter and Patrick's, and then, of course, B.L. Alley's The Trip. I have more to come, and there's a lot of wackiness coming down the pike. I have to say, I'm very excited to see where this film festival goes. For those of you who have asked about the poster competition, we're a little behind on getting all these posters up, but that's happening now. And the competition the judging, which is up to you, will be live in the next day or two, and it will go through October 15th. And then we will announce a winner. That winner will become a judge in the film festival, and then that poster we're going to print, manufacture. You'll be able to buy one. So, and we're going to print it up on really nice matte paper with spot UV printing. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome, if I do say so myself. So, let's see. Where am I? On the John Campea show this morning, my hair is a little high today. On the John Campea show this morning, we talked about how, yesterday, Regal Cinemas and Cineworld, they did, in fact, they're closing their theaters starting on Thursday, after business today, or business on Thursday of this week. They are closing. They're gone. Not forever, temporarily closing, but that's too bad. However, at 12:30, 12:23 today, Anthony D'Alessandro reports on Deadline that Cinemark, the number 3 theatrical exhibitor in the U.S., confirmed Monday that it is currently planning to stay open during the pandemic. So they're going to stay open. The news comes in the wake of Cineworld's plans to close its Regal movie theaters nationwide on Thursday until further notice, in large part due to New York continuing to be shuttered and the lack of immediate studio marquee product. Note that Cinemark does not have any movie theaters in New York City, and it has only one location in Rochester, New York, so they're not greatly impacted by Governor Andrew Cuomo's reluctance to reopen cinemas in the Empire State. Cineworld boss Mookie Greidinger puts the blame on Regal's closing squarely on the shoulders of Cuomo, who has reopened casinos and health clubs but has punished exhibition, despite the great lengths the industry has gone to implement safely cleaning and ventilation protocols during COVID-19. Studio distributors continue to praise Cinemark on how financially responsible they are and prepped to weather this pandemic, knock on wood. Back in early August, Cinemark executives said on a Q2 earnings call that they have sufficient cast to last well into 2021, even if theaters remain closed due to COVID-19. Cinemark has roughly 80% of its 332 theatrical chain open. 3 of its locations this past weekend were among Tenet's top 10 locations, including Daly City 20 in San Francisco. And so I guess that's exciting. So they're staying open. But what will they play? We had another blow. We lost No Time to Die last Friday. And, well, what did we lose today? I'll tell you what we lost. We lost the spice. The spice ain't gonna flow in 2020. We suspected this was coming down the pike, but now it is an actual reality, and I'm very upset. On this show, even though it was taken down by Warner Brothers, I did an in-depth review of the screenplay for Dune, and I loved it. I love the screenplay. I love everything I'm seeing. I love this cast. And we're not going to get to see it. It's not coming out until October of 2021, a year from now. So these movies are getting postponed not just a few months, but a year from now. And there's no guarantee things are going to be back to normal by then either. But, you know, a little more of my holiday good cheer has been taken away. I was eagerly awaiting this film. I'm very sad to see this go. Anthony D'Alessandro, he filed that Cinemark article, and then he filed this at 12:30 on Deadline, this report. And then Variety reported it, confirmed it. We're hearing that Warner Brothers' release of Legendary's Dune is no longer going on December 18th, but rather October 1st, 2021. Right now, that's the same release date as Matt Reeves' The Batman. So we have to figure Warner's moves Batman. The studio hasn't officially redated The Batman yet. Many in distribution land always believed it was too good to be true for Warner's to keep two major tentpoles, one a franchise starter, the other a franchise sequel, within days of each other, given P&A spend, especially with Wonder Woman 1984 still set for Christmas Day. I can't imagine that's going to stick. The news comes in the wake of Cineworld and Regal closing. Exhibitors were informed by a studio to push out Dune materials during Tenet's early September debut, which included a teaser trailer as well as the official trailer dropping for the Denis Villeneuve reboot of Frank Herbert's novel, the last version being in 1984, directed by David Lynch. Villeneuve's version of Dune stars Zendaya, Timothée Chalamet, Jason Momoa, Dave Bautista, Josh Brolin, Rebecca Ferguson, Oscar Isaac, Stellan Skarsgård, Javier Bardem, and Charlotte Rampling as our favorite Bene Gesserit. What's left amongst wide releases in December now? Well, 20th Century Studios' Free Guy on December 11th, 20th's Death on the Nile on December 18th, Coming to America 2 from Paramount on that same day, and Wonder Woman 1984 on Christmas, and Universal's News of the World, followed by my friend Adam Robitel's film Escape Room 2 on December 30th. Still to be decided is whether Sony puts in Constantine's Monster Hunter in December, which is getting a release abroad in December. Like what? Brandon Cronenberg's Possessor opened this weekend, which I haven't seen. One of my most eagerly awaited films of the year. I can't wait to see it. Has anyone seen it? Reading the reviews, I can't wait. But what a bummer. I mean, I don't know what to say. It was not unexpected, and I know I think it takes the pressure off the post pressure. They can now spend a lot of time getting the movie made, but that's a long time to wait. 2021 is, it's obviously it's going to be packed, but who's to say things are going to change? Who's to say they're going to go back to normal? I don't know. And it's incredibly, it's just disappointing. Personally, I've always used movies as my crutch to get me through the day. Like I said, I don't have any prescription medications. I've never had any prescription medications because movies make me feel good. That's what I use. I self-medicate with movies. And it never occurred to me when this year started that we wouldn't get any of the movies, like any of the movies. It's such a sort of a strange position to be in, really. I don't know what to say. I do know I've got a lot of letters from you guys, and you can talk for yourselves. But it is I don't know. It's just disheartening because I'm not going to live forever. You never know what's going to happen, and I'm sure after I shuffle off this mortal coil, I'm not going to care as much. But I do care now, and I really want to see these movies. I mean, to know it just I actually I have to say, like, from an existential standpoint, I'm not like reading the great philosophers. I'm not reading it bothers me from a philosophical standpoint to know that there is a finished James Bond movie that I can't see. Talk about white privilege or Western privilege or just 2020 I live in America privilege. I know the idea of thinking that there's something wrong with all the look. I understand there's a lot of problems in the world. I get that. I don't mean to denigrate anybody else's problems, but I'm speaking only in terms of the fact that as a lifelong James Bond fan, forget the rest of the world, just for a moment. As a lifelong James Bond fan, it just irks me to no end to know that there's a finished James Bond movie that somebody somewhere can watch whenever they want, like Barbara Broccoli. If I knew Barbara Broccoli and she had me over for dinner, I could say to her, Barbara, any chance we could retire to your home theater? She must have a good one. And watch a little No Time to Die? It kills me. The movie was, I had the best seats at the Cinerama to go at the Dome in Hollywood to see this movie in April. And now it's not coming out until next April. It's to know it's done and we can't see it. We're used to instant gratification now. I've got my great collection of movies on disc. I can watch whatever I want. But to know that there's these movies that exist, fast, Justice for Han has been served, and I haven't been able to get it into my brain because of COVID. Now, I understand. I don't mean to make light of anyone who's lost their lives or people who've loved ones. I'm just trying to speak a little bit sort of tongue-in-cheek and sort of not. But it's just hard for me to accept. It's hard for me to walk around every day knowing that there's a James Bond movie that I haven't seen. If that isn't the definition of, middle-aged white dude problems, I don't know what is. But still, that's how I feel. That's how I feel. I can't. As a matter of fact, I can't watch a double feature of Fast 9 and No Time to Die. Top Gun Maverick, Dune, Morbius, Venom 2, Maximum Carnage, or whatever the hell it's called. Venom 2, Absolute Carnage. I don't know. There's just all this greatness. We do have Possessor. That's cool. Possessor's out. I want to see that. I'll get that, but I'll just get that on physical media probably. But what are you going to do? It just bums me out. And now Dune. Dune, all of the movies. Tenet, which is out, but I haven't seen it. No Time to Die, and Dune. Those are my three big ones, man. Three big ones. Can't see Tenet in IMAX. And, if you can't see it in IMAX, it's a bummer. I'll tell you. But, there are worse problems to have, I suppose. And I'm getting all sad and verklempt on the show. I don't want to do that. I don't want to betray my my audience, you people out there. So I'm not. Let's talk about more fun things and movies going away, like what you guys have to say, because you guys have a lot to say. And why don't we start there? I got a letter from Omar94. Omar says, "Hi, Rob. This letter was inspired by Vesna's letter about how she appreciates the Hobbit movies. I know you hate Spielberg's Hook. Oh, I do. But I will admit I have a fondness for the movie. Are there problems with it? Yes, absolutely. However, I do still like the movie. Now, it's possible I like the movie because of nostalgia since I saw it when I was younger. If I were older and saw it for the first time, I might have thought otherwise. For the movie's problems, I think Julia Roberts was not very good as Tinkerbell, but the script is not always great, and it dragged a lot during the middle. On the bright side, I did like the performances from Robin Williams and Dustin Hoffman and Bob Hoskins. John Williams' score is great. Dean Cundy's cinematography was great, and the costumes, hair, and makeup and production values were incredible. Spielberg himself has admitted to being disappointed in the movie. He said he felt like a fish out of water during the making of it, and how he did not have the confidence in the script, so he made up for it by making the sets more lavish. The movie also was plagued by going over schedule and budget. Despite that, the movie was still successful as it made over $300 million, which was huge money in 1991. All in all, I do still really like Hook. Do I think it's Spielberg at his best? Definitely not. but it certainly is not as bad as many have had it out to be. Thanks, and live long and prosper. I am not a fan of Hook. I can't go with you there. I was on the set of that, though, and I will say that the pirate ship set that was on the Columbia lot, or the Sony lot, was amazing. It was one of the more amazing sets I've ever been on, and really, really, really fantastic. Great stuff, which is great. Omar, I'm gonna give you an Omar doubleheader. Omar94 also says, "Hey Rob, when it comes to the more modern Disney animated movies, I don't find the songs to be as good and memorable. I know Frozen's Let It Go is a very popular song, but I think it's nowhere in the same league as the songs from Disney Renaissance era, or the Disney Renaissance era, or even earlier. Don't get me wrong, there are songs I like from the more recent movies, like Tangled's When Will My Life Begin and I See the Light, or Moana's How Far I'll Go and You're Welcome. I just don't think they're as good as the older songs like Little Mermaid's Part of Your World, Under the Sea, Kiss the Girl, Beauty and the Beast's Be Our Guest, and A Tale as Old as Time, Aladdin's A Whole New World, Lion King's Circle of Life, I Just Can't Wait to Be King and Can You Feel the Love Tonight, Pocahontas' Colors of the Wind, Hercules' Go the Distance, Mulan's Reflection and I'll Make a Man Out of You, and Tarzan's Two Worlds, Son of Man, and You'll Be in My Heart. That's just me. I'm sure others might feel differently. Thanks, live long and prosper." I think a lot of popular music is not as good as it used to be. There's not a whole lot of modern music that I listen to that I'm like, oh, I love that. And when it's something I do like, Greta Van Fleet or something, I'm like, oh, I like them because they sound like Led Zeppelin. But I think you're right. I think that they're not maybe not as memorable. Depends who's writing those songs. Those are tough. That's a tough act to follow. So yeah. This is let's see, what do we got here? We've got this is a good one. So Jeffrey Mao, our chairman, has written a letter about one of my favorite, most maligned movies. I talk about it often on the show. Once again, it is I, the chairman, bringing to every imagination connoisseur some insights and thoughts into my first viewing of John Carter. I so much want to write John Carter of Mars, but alas, that was not the actual title of the film, which supports my contention that John Carter was murdered, massacred by Bob Iger, thrown away because he didn't want anything to interfere with George Lucas and his acquisition of Star Wars. I saw this film on Blu-ray with my son, who was intrigued by the premise as well, and also coincidentally was born the same year as it was released. I know that this film was recently discussed on an episode of Whining About Movies, so there's no need to rehash the specifics of the film. Rather, I thought that I would add a few interesting insights and details that I noticed. One thing that was noted in the Elizaviews review was the use of framing scenes at the beginning and the end of the film to set up how a fictional version of author Edgar Rice Burroughs, nicknamed Ned, came into the possession of the Barsoom stories from his uncle, John Carter. This is taken from the books, which apparently have the same framing device to suggest that the events portrayed in the Barsoom book series are real. This is not exclusive to the Barsoom series either. Burroughs did the same thing with his Tarzan series. In fact, even suggesting that the events of the books were real, but the names were changed to protect the innocent. I know that this practice has been used a lot in fictional storytelling, more so in older works and less so in modern fiction, which we all just straight accept as being fictional, and we suspend our disbelief accordingly. I wonder if the reason was quite simply that reading fiction books or stories is really quite a new thing in our culture, since we always had books and written works for as long as writing has existed, but the idea of the general public reading fictional books and stories, whether it be as a novel or published serially in newspapers and magazines, as entertainment on a wide scale, that this could be a profitable endeavor, is new. So authors needed a hook to get their audiences to keep coming back and reading more, and that was to try to, if not, convince their readers that the stories they were reading were real, at least give them some doubt in their minds. This would especially be true for science fiction and fantasy works. To our minds, this whole charade seems quaint, but I guess that's what the authors tended to do back then. On a side note, I really did not like Ian Fleming's attempt to do this as well in You Only Live Twice. In an obituary for James Bond, who was missing and presumed dead, Fleming writes, that he acted as kind of an embellishing hype man for Bond, that the actual missions and adventures were nowhere as exciting and thrilling, but that Fleming's job was to make them seem that way. I just felt that was really unnecessary. As if I were his editor, I'd tell him to take it out because it comes off as excessively self-indulgent. The other thing that I noticed is really tied to the larger issue of the bad timing that the film suffers from. It's clearly not the fault of anyone tied to the production of the film, but rather when it came out and it being made into a sacrificial lamb by Bob Iger and Disney in their courtship of George Lucas and Lucasfilm. In this case, though, it's the overall visual quality of the film on Blu-ray. It's a shame that now, with the film kind of being a neglected stepchild, an unwanted orphan, and also with Disney not emphasizing physical home video media like they have in decades past, it will never look as good as it could. Blu-ray's not bad, but it's also not great. With my eye tuned by watching great-looking 4K UHD discs, the Blu-ray reveals a lot of flaws and also untapped potential. With the sweeping desert exterior vistas and the colors of the costumes and the different skin tones, the film cries out for a proper HDR color grading. The film would literally shine with a good treatment. The film is, for the most part, not very dark, but some of the darker scenes, like the wedding between Sab and Princess Deja, look kind of dull, a little blurry almost. The outdoor scenes certainly fare better, although a couple of times the green screen shots looked a little obvious, like the color timing was off. Also, the rapidity which the CGI ages doesn't help the film either. It certainly was going for an Avatar-like feel with the completely CGI Tharks having a large chunk of screen time. That perhaps may have been a bit ambitious, and I think a second film could have improved the appearance of the Tharks. One thing, though, with CGI is that it seems to be a never-ending pursuit with unattainable goals. However, I would say that while not a direct apples-to-apples comparison, because every film is different and their application of CGI is different, films from a similar time period, Pacific Rim and Godzilla, had better-looking CGI. Again, what does that mean, really? It's a subjective evaluation of how well the CGI does the job of integrating with the filmed elements and how seamless it is without any glaring flaws. It could also just be that Guillermo del Toro and Gareth Edwards are much better at working with CGI. Andrew Stanton, while certainly very experienced with animation at Pixar, was directing his first live-action film, and it certainly was a good debut. However, if he had been given a chance to helm a sequel, it probably would have looked much better with his experience at hand. So, those are some of my thoughts about John Carter. It's a shame that we didn't get any more of the Barsoom series, as it sounds like the book series is quite expansive and the mythology is pretty dense, and there's a lot that could have been explored. As for what's next, I finished watching Fando and Liz, and it's going to be a while before I can put my thoughts together on a letter about it. I think I'll watch the Paramount Presents Blu-ray of To Catch a Thief. Sounds like a good change of pace before heading back into Jodorowsky. Thanks, Jeffrey Mao. What a good letter, Jeff. Thanks for writing in about John Carter. I mean, I will never not be endlessly fascinated by that film, and seemingly my idea that Bob Iger, the film was completely sacrificed by the studio. $250 million film thrown away because Bob Iger wanted to make sure that George Lucas did not perceive any kind of competition with Star Wars. And for those of you who have not heard my theory is that John Carter, which Star Wars was based on, there's a lot of stuff that came out of Edgar Rice Burroughs' Barsoom novels, was based on, Star Wars was based on a lot of that. And they were spending $250 million, and then Bob Iger found out that Star Wars might be on the auction block, and he didn't want to lose it. He didn't want George Lucas to say, well, you're developing another, space franchise, and maybe I should just stick with Fox and sell it to them instead. That was, I think, the perception. The fact that the movie's just called John Carter, the original key art, not the home video key art, but the original key art, you wouldn't have even known it's a movie set on Mars. If you didn't know who John Carter was, how can you not have, the original book is called The Princess of Mars, but how could you not call it like John Carter? I can't get to it, but I got the John Carter Warlord of Mars Marvel Comics. Why wouldn't you call that movie John Carter Warlord of Mars? That's a title, but they didn't. And I guess he's not wrong, but still, it would have been nice if the movie had been given a chance to succeed in the marketplace, which it did not. It was, I think it was murdered, to be honest. Cinema Gulp is here. Hey there, Rob. First and foremost, I wanted to share my regret that I am unable to submit a film to what should be an extraordinary film festival event. I am awe in what you've put together so quickly. Unfortunately, my YouTube partner and I are stuck in the middle of making a short film that is far from complete, and wouldn't you know it, his wife is now expecting their first child, so who knows when our film will ever get done. Regardless, I'll be there to watch all of the Imagination Connoisseurs films and cheer on the creative work that everyone puts out. Should be a great time. Well, listen, Cinema Gulp, what's to stop you from making a film right now? Just go out and do it. Make it happen. Take your passion, flash dance that, son. You know what we say around here, you got to flash dance it up. Make it happen. Take your passion and make it happen. Irene Cara sang about it. You know, Jennifer Beals didn't dance to it, but we thought she did. But Jennifer Beals, you know, she did that thing with her tongue and the pasta. It was great. Michael Nouri, I love Flashdance. It's great. Where's that 4K disc? But you can still make a film. You've got 6 weeks. Look at today's film. How long did that take to shoot? I bet they could have shot that in a day if they wanted to, maybe 2 days. And look, it's pretty clever. Less than 4 minutes. You know, you don't have to make it too ambitious. Come up with an idea and execute. We want to see your film. I am writing to you today because I recently watched The Elephant Man, which, as you know, is one of David Lynch's greatest films, stuffed with amazing performances and score as well as editing. I've mentioned to you in many of my letters that I, too, am an editor like yourself. Not nearly as successful, but nonetheless doing the daily grind, with probably my biggest gig to date being the lead editor for one season of the Lingerie Football League. Hey, man, I'd take that job. But like yourself, while watching a film more than anything, I'm cursed with noticing the editing over the story. Well, those go hand in hand, so watching The Elephant Man put me into one of those moods to constantly pause, rewind, repeat. The editing is fantastic in this film. It is. We watched it not too long ago for Whining About Movies. I know Lynch has always been extremely hands-on when it comes to the cutting room with most of his projects, but for some reason, this one feels more reserved. It feels less tinkered with by Lynch. It has its own look, feel, and pacing that some of his more manic films don't, with the exception of maybe The Straight Story. I realized that it's because it was cut by the legendary Ann Coates. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. There are fantastic female editors, and there have been for quite some time. Verna Fields was another one, affectionately known as Mother Cutter. A marvelous editor from the early days of cinema, Ann Coates' first cutting job, where she took on the duties of the first editor, was in 1954 when she cut the Pickwick Papers. Before that, she enjoyed being under the mentorship of editor John Seaborn, acting as his assistant editor. Seaborn's work includes The Green Buddha and The Man Without a Face. He was reaching the end of his career and would let Anne cut entire sequences just so he could go home early. He taught her not to do too much fiddling around with match cutting so she could cut to the heart of the scene. During the editing process of The Elephant Man, she actually broke her wrist, and yet she continued cutting. However, in the final cut of this film, she was blamed for showing the appearance of the Elephant Man. However, this was actually a Lynch decision and was planned from the beginning. She said that she liked working with Lynch. Coates' largest film to date was the 1962 David Lean masterpiece, Lawrence of Arabia. She was young, and the job came into her direction due to some odd coincidences. She bumped into the assistant editor while shopping with her husband. She struck up a conversation with him and got the producer's name from him. When she talked to the producer, he told her that she could cut the film for £50 a week with no assistant editor. She finalized the film, and Lean was blown away when watching the test screening. He told her that it was exactly the way he envisioned it. And isn't that a great thing for an editor to hear? Yes, it is. After that, she went on to cut many more films, most recently being I Love You to Death and one of my favorite dark comedies of all time, What About Bob? In the early 90s, she cut the comic book adaptation of Farewell to the King, the book adaptation, Farewell to the King, directed by John Milius. She masterfully cut this lengthy book pick into a watchable 2-hour film. This was due to her belief in cutting a film by scene and not in any particular order. This method seems to have worked for her, and it is a method I use to this day. She also cut Soderbergh's Out of Sight, if memory serves, which is beautifully done. I've always wondered what methods you have adopted over the years, and how is it that you see a scene before cutting it? I know this is a long conversation that is probably better suited for another time, but you being such an accomplished film editor, I suspect there has to be a specific way you look at the footage and organize it before starting. I want to know what's in that brain of yours. I might just learn something. As always, thank you for reading my letter, sir, and I'm beyond excited for the film festival. I've spoken with so many of the great imagination connoisseurs from this amazing community that you've created, and I know we are in for a treat with their films. Man, I wish ours was ready. P.S. My Halloween episode of Film and Vinyl has just hit our YouTube channel, and it's on the awesome Dan O'Bannon 1985 zombie classic, Return of the Living Dead. Send more cops. If you have any time, please check it out. I dig deep into not only the making of the film, but the making of its badass psychobilly soundtrack. And here is the link. Well, let me put this into the live chat. I'll watch that. Be well, sir, and keep doing everything you are doing. Peace and love from Cinema Gulp. Let me put this thing. I would anybody who talks Return of the Living Dead, I'll listen to that. Good questions. Like, how do you approach a scene when I'm editing? Well, I'll tell you something. I like to be surprised as I'm working on a film. So I will, like, a lot of the time, I have not worked with an assistant editor. I worked with an assistant editor once on that Lifetime movie, Cody. It was great. He was very knowledgeable. It was so awesome. And I could ask for things and get them. That was the only time in my life I've had an assistant editor, so I have to do everything by myself. And I did on Tango Shalom as well. But because of that, because I usually control the whole process, I just assume that when I got hired for Tango Shalom, I was not there when the movie was shot. It was a year later. Luckily, the director really knew, Gabe Bologna really knew his footage. But what I would do is I would get the script and I would read what I like to do, how my editorial process is, you read the script first. First of all, you make sure you got all your assets and you organize them. I organize my assets in bins, standard bins, and I go by the scene and then the take numbers, just like anybody would. And I do like to cut scene by scene, and like Ann Coates, just to keep it fresh, I jump all over the place. I don't necessarily cut in a linear fashion. If I read the script, I'll have scenes in my mind that I know I want to cut, like, ooh, that'll be fun. I have an idea to cut. If it's like a pitter-patter, rapid-fire conversation, I love cutting those, so I'm like, okay. And then what you do is, once you have all the footage organized, the way that I look at it is I'll watch all the takes, and there are moments in every take that I mark, or I'll just pull them out and make a select reel. I'll just dump all of the takes, all of them, down into a select reel. Like, for instance, when I learned this, when Peter Jackson was editing Lord of the Rings, they would take all the line readings that an actor has and just line all those line readings up and just watch those line readings. Like if somebody says, hey, how are you? It's great to see you. What have you been up to? Let's say that was the line. Peter Jackson, however many takes he does of that line, he'll line all of those up at once, just rapid fire, and then he'll pick the one he likes the best. And that's the one they try and use. I kind of work that way. Like I go through, and like when you're watching a take, there are favorite moments that I have in takes. I'm like, ooh, I like this, I like this, I like this. And I pull them out and usually put them on my timeline that I'm editing, the scene. So you got the whole timeline down, and I throw these into big, long select reels. And I just start whittling it down, finding the things I like ooh, I like this line reading, and I like this response. And it's more freeform, and you just kind of sculpt it and see what's there until you get it the way you like it. And that's how I like to do scenes. And it keeps it fresh because, if I look through all the coverage before I start cutting, then it becomes a little duller. But this way, I'm like, I get excited about the scene as I'm working on it. So I'm like, ooh, I'll try this, or oh my God, I love this, or I'll find a take. I'm like, oh, that's the one, that's the best one. And there are sometimes like I'll want to get to a specific take. So if you've got like people talking, if it's say a 4-minute scene, it's a 4-minute conversation. There might be, there's a couple of moments I will have found that I'm like, I have to be on the actor doing this thing, or when they say the line, they might have something quirky or wacky about whatever the scene is or the way they look, and I'm like, I have to get, so I'll sometimes frequently try and get to a specific chunk that I've already pulled out in advance that I love. Like, oh, I've got to make this work, so can I, but then once you do that, you have to make sure, does it really work in the scene, or can you find something better? And I don't know if that helps you, but that's kind of how I approach things, and it keeps it fresh. I mean, that's the way I like to work. when you're editing, it's really important to stay frosty, to stay engaged, and to just stay into it, so you can really, deliver the best film that you possibly can. Doc Vader is writing in, and he says, "Hi, Rob. Glad all is well to you and our fellow imagination connoisseurs. Today I am going to, somebody's calling me. Today I'm going to share my love about film photography. Nearly a decade ago, I tried my dad's 35mm camera, the Minolta XD5, with a 50mm 1.7 f1.7 lens. It was an electronic camera, meaning it needed batteries for you to be able to trip the shutter mechanism and use its light meter, but it had one mechanical setting which was triggering only at 1/100th that your speed. So me, with my amateur exposure skills, set out to use it to pour to fair results after seeing the final output. With this, my film photography journey began, and with it, a lot of movies about photography, photographers, and a lot of pointing out different cameras being used or not used in scenes. Here are 5 random movies that I wanted to share to start off." Ooh, you're buttering me up now. The first is Michelangelo Antonioni's Blow Up. It is a movie about a fashion photographer capturing what may be a murder of a beautiful lady at a park. Set in the swinging 60s. It was when the mundane UK woke up to pop music, sex, fashion, and psychedelics. David Hemmings is a fashion photographer who does not realize what he has taken until he develops his negatives in the darkroom and does a technique called blowing it up, the photo, hence the title. The film features the easy sex and lifestyle of the era and a very sultry Vanessa Redgrave to boot. Next, we now tackle movies about conflict photographers. We have the Bang Bang Club from 2010. It's based on the real-life experiences of 4 combat photographers documenting the end of apartheid in South Africa. It showed the trials and tribulations of being a photographer and the emotional residue they experience after capturing harrowing scenes from the ground. Taylor Kitsch did a great job playing Kevin Carter, the Pulitzer Prize-winning photographer, for this shot here. And let's put that Pulitzer Prize-winning photograph into the chat. So here you go. I'll put it right over here. So there you go. Then you can see that. And the demons he faced with depression, especially the loss of fellow photographer and friend. We go back now to the 1980s with Under Fire. I liked Under Fire, starring Nick Nolte as a photographer caught between the Nicaraguan Civil War and a romantic triangle with Gene Hackman. Based on a real-life event in Nicaragua, it was both intriguing and thrilling to watch. Last, we have Oliver Stone's Salvador, in where James Spader plays an American photojournalist chronicling the events of the 1980 El Salvador dictatorship. It was actually James Woods, wasn't it, in Salvador? Playing both sides to get his story in photos, he takes a moral turn when trying to get his local girlfriend, played by steamy Elpida Carrillo of Predator fame, out to the U.S. Finally, we have Hitchcock's Rear Window. We have Jimmy Stewart playing the OG voyeur, wheelchair-confined photographer, observing his neighbors with his Exacta and telephoto lens. With the help of his girlfriend and nurse, he tries to uncover his suspicions of a neighbor murdering his wife. Having recently watched the 4K version of this movie, it does not get old, nor does the classic beauty of Grace Kelly. I recall watching this on Laserdisc back when I was 9 or 10, and I recognize it as a great thriller it is, despite its age. So, Rob, do you have a film camera, and who else owns any film cameras nowadays from our community? Anyhow, sharing some of my film photos with this short video I made last 2017. Well, Doc Vader, I'm going to put this in the live chat. And check out Doc Vader's work. So, there you go. I don't have a film camera anymore. I used to, but I don't. I don't even have a DSLR. I've only got video cameras. And I've got a Panasonic and a Canon. And that's all I have left. But I would love to shoot something on film again. I developed pictures. I learned how to develop in college. And I loved it. You know, I really did enjoy photography. I need to get back into it, I think. I'd like to do that. I mean, I like to shoot things with video cameras, and I like to make movies and all that. So definitely is something I should do, but I'll take a look at your photography. I mean, I'm always amazed at people's photography, how great And especially when you're a photographer, you have to develop your own stuff too. You have to have complete mastery over that process. This letter comes from Dean Mikitich. Hi, Rob and the Post-Geek Singularity. In one of my previous letters, I talked about watching movies based on real events with space and NASA. Apollo 13, The Right Stuff, October Sky. I've continued this theme now going into fiction, with films and TV shows centered on Mars. These were The Martian, the extended version, which I love that movie so much. Mission to Mars, Conquest of Space, which I think could be the film that opened my eyes to science fiction. Seeing that spinning space station just blew my little mind. And of course, the docudrama Mars. You know, there's a really interesting movie called Mission Mars I used to watch on TV when I was a little kid that I really liked. I have to say that I found the docudrama Mars fascinating, but also at the same time a little worrisome. It was interesting to hear what all the talking heads had to say, and I agree with them. Mars is going to cost us a lot as a species before we truly conquer it. I have no doubt there will be many lives lost in those early years, especially when you know that only 50% of the unmanned missions to the Red Planet have successfully been able to land on it. Those people that take the task of going there will know this and accept the fact they could not be coming back. But what about those films that are financed? But what about those are financing these missions? Will they be? Oh, hang on. But what about those who are financing these missions? Will they be able to accept this? After Apollo 13 happened, Nixon got cold feet when it came to space. He did not want to lose an American life in space while he was in office. It was also around this time he was given two options on what NASA should do next. Start working on getting a manned mission to Mars, something the Saturn rocket was partially designed to do, or build a vehicle that can get into low Earth orbit and be reusable. We all know what choice Nixon made. If it had gone the other way, we could now have a colony or at least a manned research station on the moon right now. Getting humans to Mars does not have me worried. Whenever we attempt something, there's always risk and failure, but we always pick ourselves up and keep at it until we get it right. What has me worried is what the second season of Mars was focused on. That the big corporations going there and setting up shop to exploit the resources Mars has to offer just to make a quick buck, but also in the process making deals with governments so they can do what they want, just like here on Earth. We all know there are international laws regarding space and how no government can lay claim to any planet or celestial bodies within our own solar system. But these laws don't apply to big corporations. With more and more companies now looking beyond Earth, isn't it time we look at these laws and make changes so their cooperation doesn't start to lay claim to resources outside the planet? I mean, do we really want one company in control of the air that everyone breathes on Mars, as seen in Total Recall? Personally, I don't think that this will be a good idea, but I'm sure it will happen unless laws are put into place now to make sure it never does. Peace and long life, Dean Mikitich. You know, yes, I mean, we're short-sighted and greedy fuckers, and I would love to see every external planet and any place that humans can go to exploit natural resources to be protected, but I fear that's not going to be the case. But, you know, I think also Mars is going to go to the highest bidder. Whoever's getting there first, whoever has the equipment that can get them there and make a presence, it's those people that are going to be able to stay. I don't know who that's going to be. We'll see. But it's still, I think it's a ways off. But definitely something we should be thinking about, because we're going to have to think about it sooner rather than later. Absolutely. Our friend Lubna's here. Lubna Khan is back. Lubna says, hello, just a little recommendation. Have you seen the BBC miniseries Archangel? I have not. And it sounds good to me. Let me put that in the chat. Archangel. There it is. It's set in Russia, and in it, Daniel Craig's character runs afoul of neo-Stalinism. I don't think it's James Bondian, but I do believe you'd like it. That sounds right up my alley. Lubna. P.S. Regarding your MCU multiverse crossover theory, I do believe you have the right of it. It just fits. When you were talking about it, it felt as if all the pieces were falling into place. Click, click, click. Oh, and who saw the Electro thing coming? Wouldn't you love to be in the room when that was first proposed? I don't know. But I would actually. I've loved to have been in that conversation. I have this great idea for Spider-Man 3. Picture this. Jamie Foxx is Electro. He's back. Yeah, can you imagine? I'd love to have seen that. Somebody try and get away with that. That would have been very, very amusing. I can't even. I wonder if this was met with A, deafening silence, or B, cackling laughter, or C, other. Just curious. Maybe somebody will write in and tell me. I don't know, Lubna, but yeah, it is. It's bring back Electro. That's some officer thinking. Not. I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine how crazy that would be. I had a letter to read and I just lost it. Here it is. It's from our man Ian Samuels. Ian says, Rob and fellow Robservationists, and so I decided to give Star Trek Lower Decks a go, and, what can I say? Well, the main ship, the California-class USS Cerritos, looks awful. Quite possibly the worst, most illogical ship design ever in Star Trek. The Parliament-class USS Vancouver look really good, though, despite disappearing in only one episode. The stories are silly. The animation is far too cartoonish. Two of the people working on the series were part of the team that created Rick and Morty, and you can see that. It looks and feels more like Rick and Morty or Futurama than it does Star Trek. The Star Trek references feel like they're crowbarred in a desperate attempt to remind the viewer it is Star Trek. It is a reasonably fun series from what I've seen so far, but it is not Star Trek. I don't have a problem with there being an animated Star Trek. I enjoy the original Star Trek, the animated series. I just think that the best idea would be going darker and having an animated Star Trek series in a similar style to the Berman era, to the Batman the Animated Series effort. That was a complete faux pas. Batman the Animated Series. But what we have. It's fun, but it ain't no Star Trek. Ian, well, I like the way you think. I can't not love that letter. Lower Decks is okay to me, I guess. I mean, it would have been really interesting to make an animated show about Star Trek in a humorous manner. And I think the whole idea of a second contact ship, like the Enterprise rolls up, does its business, and like, okay, you can join the Federation. And then you have the second ship that rolls up to have the most important job, to open relationships with the natives and to figure out how this is all going to work. And yet they treat it as like they're second-class citizens, which I don't understand. So the premise itself, to me, seems flawed. Of course, I could be different. Who knows? Renato writes in and says, hello, Mr. Burnett, and every other bags of mostly water watching or listening. I have a strange request concerning the first annual Imagination Connoisseurs Film Festival. Movies and video games have always been my favorite way to escape the real world, but in recent years, this escape progressively became my world, so I write. I finished a play that I intend to direct in February, but luck would have it, COVID wants the play too. Everything is on standby. I even started, for my own benefit, maybe more, a screenplay for a sequel to a major space sci-fi horror movie franchise. It's quite a personal learning experience. Well, good luck with that. I want to see what that is. And then here comes the Intergalactic Imagination Connoisseurs Film Festival and my request. I finished this morning an 11-page screenplay that I wrote, and I'm willing to share this screenplay with someone who will direct. You see, I'm a French-speaking Canadian who likes to write in English. I'm Americanized that way. I'm quite isolated in my little town of less than 6,000 souls. I watch movies in their original version. Arnold Schwarzenegger doesn't sound the same in French. My younger self learned most of his English by watching TV. Like Three's Company, it was on the CBC and the same episode was in French on Radio Canada half an hour later. Back to the film festival. If you're willing to serve as an intermediary, I have a script that needs a director. If someone is interested, they can contact me via email. I'll be sharing until someone replies, yes, I'll do it. Thank you very much for keeping imagination alive, and I very much enjoy this YouTube thing that you're doing. This bag of too much water, Renato Valley. Well, Renato, I would be happy to do that. If there's anybody that's looking for a short script to shoot, I would be happy to hook you guys up. I'd have to know something about it, though. Like, how old's the protagonist? I'd need a little bit more information just because if I wanted to help you, I have to be able to know what it is I'm selling, basically. But yeah, count me in. I am in. So let's see what you guys are doing. I have no idea. I'm going to find out. Well, here's this, and let's see what you guys are saying. I know that I had something from Willow. Here we go. First of all, the first letter today is from the Buttmaster. Your thoughts on Richard Donner's infamous firing from Superman 2? Do you feel he was treated unfairly? Do you believe the Salkinds, the producers, were left with no choice, or something else? Well, for those of you who don't know, Superman 1 and Superman 2, Superman the movie and Superman 2, were basically filmed concurrently. And Richard Donner was directing all of it. And he had a falling out with the Salkinds, either over, money or tone or the way the movie was going to be done. And they got rid of him, and they replaced him with Richard Lester, who had directed, Help. He was a funny guy, not the serious Richard Donner, who was trying to bring a great sweeping sense of Americana to Superman. And I think he did succeed in doing that, absolutely. But I think that for whatever reason, you never know why these things. Producers fire directors as a last resort. It's not something that happens often. And I don't know really why they got rid of him. I don't know. I think that they should have kept him. I think it's a really bad. I mean, when you're making two movies at once, you really need to be simpatico with your director. You really need to. It's really important. So I think that getting rid of him was a problem. However, I've seen the Donner cut, and there are things in the Donner cut that I miss from the original version of Superman 2, like when Christopher Reeve says, "General, would you care to step outside?" That's Richard Lester, and it's weird to think, because the Donner cut is deeply compromised too. It's not finished all the way properly, but I mean, I think that they probably had a big difference of opinion, and Richard Donner he was bigger and brasher, and he had too much power in his hands, because the Salkinds who were paying for this probably just wanted him gone so they could re-exact control over their own investment. That's what I would imagine happened. But I don't know. It's not like the studio fired him. So, yeah. Good question, though. Willow says, does B.L. Alley have does B.L. Alley have a twin or a clone that we didn't know about? I don't know. Perhaps he does. I mean, watching his movies, you'd think that he might. They're that convincing. Willow says, do you think this season of The Boys is getting too on the nose with its commentary? Yes, I do, a little bit. Don't get me wrong, I think the show's entertaining as hell, and I cannot wait for the finale this week. I agree with you. I think the season's too short, and I mean, we didn't really get. I'm sure they're going to resolve the storyline with A-Train and the Deep, but they haven't done much with that. So, but it is pretty on the nose. The commentary is absolutely pretty on the nose. So, I will grant you that. Willow says, also, you know that you'll have my money if you decided to do a show topless. What Willow is referring to is the peach-colored shirt that I was wearing earlier today. A lot of people made fun of me or said I looked naked. When I came back this morning, on John Campy out of the corner of his eye thought I was, in his peripheral vision, thought I was wearing nothing, which is silly. But you know what, Willow? If I work out, that'll be like my reveal at 100,000 subscribers. I will work out and get myself to the point where I feel okay bearing my chest in public. But I'll do it for you. Richard Ganther sends in a tip and says, my cinephile heart is heavy today. The moving of DUNE means from January of this year to April of next year at least. Well, it's October, so you should be sobbing in your Wheaties right now. If I had a bowl of Wheaties, I'd be sobbing into that too. They call them tears. It's a sign of their weakness. I will also have seen Invisible Man and Tenet, and that's it. Who knows if my local cinema will be around then? I know. We can't really know what's happening, and it all just sucks. It all sucks. It's a bummer. What can you do? I just missed my place. Richard Ganther says, I'm conflicted that the lack of films troubles me as much as it does. There are bigger things in the world going on. Dude, I was just talking about that early in the show. I feel your pain. Like, I know for a fact that there's a lot of more pressing issues in the world than the movies that are coming out. But as I explained, I've defined myself by movies. It's how I pass the time, and to not have movies come out drives me crazy. Crazy. Richard goes on to say, cinema has been the love of my life since I saw Top Gun in 1986. It's a bummer. Best wishes to you and the Post-Geek Singularity. Well, Richard, thank you. I think we all kind of feel that way, though. You know? We all want to go back to the movies. 200 Watt Studio sends in a super chat and says, not worried. Let the industry burn. Vaudeville is gone too, but its remnants resolved into the film industry and learn and will evolve as well. I hope so. I hope 200 Watt Studio that you're right. I hope we do evolve, because I want to continue to make movies. I really do. 200 Watt Studio goes on to say, has anyone ever asked Lucas if he would have passed on Disney if not for John Carter of Mars? I would love to know if Iger's Gambit was on the radar. I don't know. That's a really good question. I don't know. Branded Sheehy sends in a super chat and says, I'd like to see Hellraiser 1 and 2 as one long epic fleshed out, pardon the pun, film. A symphony of horror across a symphony of horror excess that may be soured by its trashy sequels. I agree. I mean, Hellraiser 1 and 2 are really good, and 3's got some good stuff in it, but for the most part, I agree with you. Bums me out. My man Johnny Stewart's back. Johnny Stewart says, finally a studio with balls just pushes out their big title out wait a minute. Finally, a studio with balls just pushes their big title out and big title out a year, meaning push the year. I can't read today, apparently. While I didn't agree with the decision, but as a business, they made the right call. I think so too. They had to. They made the right call. Otherwise, constantly, going back and forth, like jerking people around, people would end up not believing a word you said. They need that. They need that to happen. Jules Goodwin says, just curious, with all these big movies pushing their dates back, isn't there a risk of data mining and someone putting a bootleg copy of the movie online? Oh, yes, there is. Heck, it just happened to Mulan, and it lost Disney a ton of money. Yeah, I heard that, but yes. I mean, yes, to answer your question, absolutely. So, yeah. I don't know what we're going to do. How are we going to get movies? I don't know. But yeah, it's problematic. It's problematic. Julius is here. Julius Goodwin. I haven't seen you in a while, Julius. I was thinking about you just the other day. Well, that's I'm reading that again. Why am I drawing? Am I being crazy? Why is my brain fuzzing out on me now? That was your thing that I just read. And I'm saying, Julius, I don't know. I think I'm living in the Twilight Zone. Maybe because I have to end this show early because I have to go do something work related, and I'm trying to get through this fast, so I'm going a little nuts. I don't like to do it fast. I like to hang back and chill. I like to just read. I don't like to rush through things and be sort of like crazy like that. But I think, Julius, that it's very dangerous to have movies lying around and opening them in foreign countries before they're domestically released. But in the case of these movies, I don't think they're worried about piracy because they could easily trace back whomever did it, because nobody has copies of these movies. Like, I'm sure the only copy that exists, if there's some kind of a large file of some kind, or a large computer, a disk drive that has the movie on it, and that's what they move it around on, and there's only one, probably, I would assume that, and that has everything. Jeff Yerke sends in a tip and says, hi, Rob, I liked your letter about film cameras. My fetish in films are those that feature tape recorders. Uh-oh. My two favorites, of course, are The Conversation by Francis Ford Coppola and De Palma's great Blowout with John Travolta. Right now, I'm surrounded by 13 recorders. I love that. Yeah, and both of those movies are great. And some people say that Blowout is a remake of well, it's remake of Blow Up, but Blowout. The conversation is it's so. I love the end of the conversation is so apocalyptic. I love that. I just love it. But it's a great movie, and they both, both Blow Up, or pardon me, both Blow Out and the conversation do some very interesting things when they're with their use of sound, and they're both really worth watching. Great double feature too. Great double feature. Stubble McShave is here and says, I know that sports aren't primarily a focus of the Post-Geek Singularity, but what do you think the chances are that the Olympics will move another year? I think they're probably, it really depends where we're going, but I think the Olympics are going to move another year. I do. Which is a bummer, but I think it's going to happen. Stubble McShave sends in a tip and says, I know that sports aren't well, I already read that, but why am I, these things are doubling up. I'm reading the same thing twice, which is weird. Michael Preston, I can see if I can get this right. Michael Preston says, hello, Rob. I watched all 3 movies and loved 2 of them, and I liked the chase. Can't wait to see more. Oh, you're talking about the film festival. I'm glad you are. Yes, we're going to have, I know that we got another movie that's, it's very different from the other 3 that we've got. I had no sense of how many movies we're going to get at this film festival. I just had no idea. And so I've been tickled that we have these, that we're even had 3. So I'm glad you're enjoying them. I can't wait to see what comes in. It's a lot of fun, which is great. Hey, Kaz Graphics is here, the official cheesemonger of this channel. Kaz Graphics says, hello, Rob. I was just rewatching The Mandalorian Season 1, and after rewatching it, it felt like the test ground for the volume technology with various directors trying new things. Could this be the case? I think it absolutely is. I think they're learning as they go. I think you're absolutely right. They're learning what they can get away with. 100%. 100%. And, I'm curious. I mean, I would love to go in there and see what various things look like. Like, what does it look like in an urban environment? I mean, I'd be very curious. So, Darren McKinnon is here and sends in a super chat and says, hey, Rob, I'm back. I'm 4 episodes into Raised by Wolves. Did you watch the whole thing? Your thoughts? I haven't seen it all yet, but I like what I've seen. Everybody tells me the last 2 episodes are epic, but I haven't seen those. I want to see those. So hopefully soon. I've just had so much going on. I haven't watched much TV. So, yeah, absolutely. But I'm into it. Count me in. Let's see. I guess that is the end. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is a quick show today. I got through letters and your super chats and all that. I want to thank you for this. We're going to be on tonight. Elizabeth and I are going to be talking about Mario Bava's Black Sunday, a.k.a. Mask of the Demon. So come listen to us. Check that out. We're going to be doing that at like 7:30, I think, tonight. It's a great Halloween movie. It's beautiful. It's so ingenious and clever. So you'll like that. Nick Markin sends in a various thank you for that, Nick. Very much appreciated. Hello, Rob. What do you think about Ridley Scott saying that the Alien and Blade Runner franchises exist in the same universe? He said this on the Blade Runner commentary track. I like that idea. Blade Runner, in the Blade Runner universe, you have replicants. In the Alien universe, you have the androids. I see it as a natural evolution. I'm all for it. I think it's a great idea. Why not? I think, it's cool. It's kind of like how Outland takes place, even though it's not Ridley Scott. Outland's supposed to be in the Alien universe as well. There's a few allusions to the movie in that. But yeah, I like it. I think it's cool. I like that stuff. It makes sense. I mean, the future of Blade Runner, although the one thing that doesn't kind of make sense, and they kept the whole idea of the analog future in Blade Runner 2049, whereas the future of the Alien, there's more computers and things like that. When you get to Prometheus, it's like, really? Are they the same universe? But yeah, I like that. I think it's cool. Why shouldn't it be? 100%. Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to end this chat quickly. Only an hour today. I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank my moderators, the Richard, Joshua Levesque is here. I want to thank you for, let's see, I think maybe that's it. That's all we got. I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to encourage everyone to watch today's entry into the Imagination Connoisseurs Film Festival over on the Burnettwork. It is called Crawl Space and very much worth seeing. So thank you all very much. And thanks you all for supporting the channel via Super Chats and tips. I appreciate that. But thank you also for your amazing letters. And this film festival wouldn't happen without the viewers and the community we have, which is incredible. I think it's great. So tonight, I'll see you later. And this ends Robservations episode 529. I kind of want to go cry into my cornflakes now because no Dune for a whole year, like a whole year. Doesn't seem fair. But anyway, tonight on Elizaviews, join us for Mario Bava's Mask of the Demon, a.k.a. Black Sunday. All right, and with that, I will remind everybody, if I'm still on, that every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. And all you have to do is listen. And with that, I will say, uh-oh, you know what I've done? I've hit something, and I've hit something, and the button where I turn the show off disappeared. So it's just going to stream and stream and stream, and you'll just have to watch me, and there'll be nothing I can do about it. I don't know what to say. Other that it all went away. I don't know what went away. That's pretty crazy. Well, what can you do? I guess I'll just stay here and won't go to work. You'll just watch me and I'll pontificate. What if I did that? I just start typing? No, I won't do that. I don't know why this has happened the way it has happened, but very odd. It is very odd. Well, perhaps I don't know what. Oh, there we go. It came back. Yes, but anyway, those Imagination Connoisseur Film Festival entries are flying. We've got a very interesting one that's coming up. I can't wait to see what you all make of it. So we shall see. Anyway, I will see you all tonight on Whining About Movies for our Halloween Spectacular episode 82, Mario Bava's Black Sunday. And with that, I say to all of you, have a better day.